Okay, hey, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we got yet another Seiko. Seiko's killing it this year with these releases, guys. Hard to keep up even as a bit of a fan. It's more than a bit of a fan, but not quite a fanboy. But Seiko, of course, founded back in 1881. They're Japanese in origin and now have factories throughout Asia. They cover all market segments from entry level to quite high end. And in terms of this type of watch, I'd characterize it as a classic field watch. Some key common characteristics and design language when you're looking at a classic field watch. Of course, you're going to have that more modest size. You're going to have Arabic numerals. You're going to have the 12 and 24-hour scale. And it'll typically be on some type of black or cream dial traditionally. This is your Seiko 5 Sports SBSA111. That's the JDM nomenclature. And if you get the international model, which is also now available, it is your SRPG27. And it's just Seiko's take on an affordable everyday field watch. And it's not Seiko's first attempt at this. They have some really great models from the past. I won't reference them all, but you guys have seen them. They're on Amazon, they're on Joma Shop, they're on everybody's kind of, hey, entry level watch, buy this watch. And I was one of those people that bought those watches back in the day. So it was great to see something updated with a hacking hand windable movement with a bracelet. It's nothing fancy, especially for the price, but let's talk about the price, guys. Under 300 bucks, $275 full USD retail. So that's if you were about to buy it directly from Seiko at full stop. Will these sell for less than that? I'm sure inevitably they will. I got this one from Sakura Watches, who is actually listing them for $243. So a little bit cheaper. Plus, you're going to get that kanji day wheel, which is fun. So I have that here. You can see that. And of course, red Sundays. It's a Seiko, ties into the red seconds hand tip. So, you know, if you want to pay a little bit more for that JDM appeal, I have to say, hey, here's a great place to get it. Sakura really has just a bevy of options in general when it comes to JDM watches, but keep an eye on them. In this case, they kind of released in a very similar window, which isn't always the case. Sometimes the JDM, I shouldn't say sometimes, but usually the JDM unit comes out first, and then it takes a while for the US dealers and just internationally for these to get pushed out there. In this case, you know, kind of close. So the JDM appeal window might not be quite as juicy as it normally is, but I will say, since it is a day-date model, having that kanji day wheel is something that I enjoy, and maybe you do too. Let me know in the comments below. With all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. All right, guys, so as you can see, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's a really handsome, well-balanced classic field watch. It can fits in that everyday wear, you know, place, and it's, you know, it's beautiful. It's only 39.4 millimeters in diameter, 13.2 millimeters thick, and 48.1 millimeters lug to lug. It's brushed and polished stainless steel. It does have a single dome hardlex mineral crystal. The bezel, of course, is fixed and non-rotating, and this crown is non-screw down. And you can see those nicely polished sides there with the drilled lugs, so that pretty much makes this quite a strap monster. 20 millimeter lug width as well, which is just the sweet spot in terms of aftermarket straps, and you know, when we're talking single piece nylon in the various iterations, or you know, a fun leather strap or textile strap. So there's a lot of different options there, but I always do prefer to get it on bracelet, so that I can wear it on bracelet, because I'm a bracelet guy. But it's nice to be able to swap out and have some options, because that's what it's all about, right? Especially when you're spending so little money on this. You can really get more bang per buck by kind of dressing it up, dressing it down. And I dig that, and it's something that's always been an appeal of the Seiko 5 Sports line, and it's something that continues today, if you ask me. Now, Getting into some of the details of the dial, hands, and loom, of course, you're getting those raised and printed indices. You're getting, they're also brushed, some of the indices there. Some of them are loomed, which is great, which we'll catch in kind of the low light transition segment. It's a very straightforward militaristic dial. It's matte black. You have the date and the day at 3 o'clock. You're getting white font over a black wheel, which is great. I think it integrates nicely. And then it gives you an excuse to put a really cool little border, as you can see, around the date complication. It's giving you 10 bar or 100 meters of water resistance, which is great, and pretty much all you need. You just have to make sure the crown is pushed in when you're getting it wet. So if you got really sweaty or gross out in the world and you just want to rinse this thing off in the sink, just make sure the crown is pushed in and you will be absolutely fine. And yeah, this thing's awesome. So with that said, let's actually get this on wrist, because there's honestly not too much there in terms of design. It's just a clean military dial, and what does this compete with? A lot. There's a lot of this. It's funny because there's fashion watches right now. You go into a store that sells clothes and you'll see a watch that looks probably a lot like this, with a quartz movement in it and on tons of different colorful NATO straps, and it's just a fashion accessory. The cool thing here is that now it's not just a fashion, it's still fashionable, but it's more than that. It's not just a fashion watch, it's not just a fashion accessory. Now there's a little bit of history, a little bit of fun, a little bit of horological significance tied in. So yeah, I think that's fun and cool. So let's see how it wears. Okay guys, as you can see on my 7¼ inch wrist, this thing wears really great. If I didn't already mention, the crystal is a single domed hardlex, so when you do get it at harsh angles, because it's only domed on the top side and not underneath, you're going to get a good bit of distortion. Some people enjoy the visual play. I typically prefer to have a little bit more legibility, especially on a watch like this, so that would be a bit of a drawback. But not necessarily, I guess, an objective drawback, more subjective, because some people dig that. You're also going to get a little bit of kind of that reflection play, because I do not believe that there's any type of non-reflective coating or anti-reflective coating on there, but that such is the that's just how it is when you're getting a watch at this cost from a mainstream brand, and it's promoted as a cheap watch typically. You're also getting hollow end links. I'm pretty sure these are hollow links, push pin connectors, and relatively stamped clasp there, but it does secure well. And honestly, on the wrist, it feels great. It's really more in hand, running your fingers over things, getting some of the finer details as you're examining the watch, where you notice, where they cut some corners and kept it cheap. But in terms of wearability, it's great. It gives you everything you need. I dig it. I think it looks fantastic. Look at that, guys. It's a good looking watch. Absolutely legible. It tells a story. It's, perfectly versatile from that standpoint, and that this really kind of goes with everything. It's might tough to dress up, but you could maybe throw it on a nice leather strap and make it a bit dressier, because it just has those nice Arabic numerals, which tend to kind of resonate well on the dressier side. Although it is somewhat of a busier dial, I will say their use of color palette choices on the dial. Let me actually give it a quick, guys, behind the scenes action. Invest in one of these if you have a YouTube channel or an Instagram you care about, because getting the dust off of the dial, off of the crystal, I should say, really does help. So yeah, great looking. You can see that polished side there helps the thickness kind of melt away. And yeah, for 13.2 millimeters thick, somehow it's thicker by a decent margin than the other Seiko 5, which I reviewed and own, the Dress KX, as some call it. So now it's kind of like, which one is the ultimate entry level? And then there's also the Seiko Spirit that I reviewed not too long ago that is actually really quite nice as well. Kind of a new age SARB, a little bit plussed up, but I think also a little bit more refined. So and a little bit more versatile at that. So yeah, so now there's actually quite a haul. Maybe I should do a Seiko 3-watch collection on the affordable side, do like the mini turtle, a dressy one, and then a sporty one, and call it a day and do a video like that. Would you guys be interested in that? Let me know in the comments below. This thing is great. It just wears wonderfully, guys. It doesn't... Is it lacking from a spec term, right? Like, could you have solid end links and solid links and screw-in links and a milled clasp? Sure. I'm absolutely certain that at some point aftermarket companies will come along and make solid pieces for this, or we might just find out that other solid things fit. Who knows? Maybe the alpinist bracelet will fit on this. I don't know. I haven't even tried it because this isn't so bad that that I'm forced to want to try it. If that makes sense. I know on my older Seiko 5s, swapping out the bracelet was pretty much a given. In this case now, although in terms of spec, again, they're nothing special. You're also getting a lot in terms of the fit and finish is a lot better. So yeah, it's a Seiko 5. It's meant to be entry level, but it's pretty darn nice. So let's go ahead, get some loom shots, the light transition, and get into some closing thoughts. All right, did I mention that this has a 4 or 36 movement, hacking and hand windable? If I didn't, take note. All right, guys, let's hit the lights. As you can see, Seiko Luma Bright, really well applied, nice bright pop, initial brightness, very good, and it will stay like this over time. But one thing I do like to do is work out a bit of a low light transition, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to be in more transitional lighting, maybe coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, you know, walking underneath the shade of a tree, or just spending time in your favorite automobile. So it's nice to see what this is going to look like in more realistic lighting conditions. And then, you know, maybe not even realistic, but even harsher lighting conditions that might expose some defects in the finishing. But as you can see, the light is gliding quite nicely off of this very pedestrian brushing from Seiko, so they still got it and they can still mass produce it. One thing I will say is that's actually really cool is the brushing across those numerals for the hours, the 12, 1, 2, and so on and so forth. They catch light in a really fun, interesting way. Also, that crystal itself plays with the light and kind of projects it onto the dial in some different ways that really help give it some play. Look at that. Like, you can go from a very high contrast, you know, dark pitch black dial to getting a couple of, you know, different spots and strays and shines and highlights, which is very cool. And generally the numerals do a nice job of kind of staying within contrast to what's happening on the dial, which I can appreciate. And then of course you get down to the loom and you're still gonna be able to tell what time it is, which I can dig. So with that said, let's go ahead and get the lights back on here, guys. So closing thoughts on the wrist, it wears just about perfectly, very dialed in. The thickness isn't as noticeable as you would think, to be totally honest. Could it be a little bit smaller? It's, you know, basically 39.4, you know, could it be 38 and still a cool watch? Yeah, absolutely. But it's, at the end of the day, it's a sporty watch that's meant for the masses. So something being closer to 40 millimeters, I'm sure is the smartest play in terms of volume and keeping everybody happy, not making it so small some people won't even try it. So yeah, I think it absolutely works. The lug to lug is pretty reasonable at 48.1 millimeters. So, you know, this is just going to fit great on most wrists. And if you have a smaller wrist, you can always put it on a strap or something and, you know, work it differently for whatever way is going to suit your kind of wear preference. In terms of model variations, yeah, there's a blue dial on bracelet, gray dial, green dial, black dial options on nylon straps. So basically the black and the blue are for bracelet, and then the green, gray, and then there's like 2 other black options in terms of what comes on strap. One of them is going to be very similar to this dial. The other dial option is going to be more on that kind of Fotina, the earthy, creamy tones. You know, that's also a great look as well. So if you're into that, there's those options that are there. And that's one of the fun things about Seiko 5, at least modern Seiko 5, is that they want to give you all those options and kind of fulfill your inner Seiko modder, even if you don't want to deal with modding or the prices of modding parts. You can kind of just get something a little bit more personalized based on their lineup, which I can appreciate. Now, comparable models, guys, Hamilton Khaki series, no brainer. Like, that's what this is comparable to, but it's a lot cheaper. Sure, you can get those Hamilton Khaki watches, of course, gray market, for you know, closer in terms of price. But again, this is like full stop. The retail price is $275, not the gray market price. So, and then you can still get them for $243 from Sakura Watches. Big shout out to Sakura again. Check the link in the description. And although I don't get any type of monetization from that, there's a tracker so that at least they know that when they work with me, that hopefully my videos get them some traction, and then they're more eager to answer my messages or when I reach out on new releases to see if I can get one as quickly as possible. And you know, and you know, and I'm paying for it, of course. You know, maybe you guys will help me get free shipping or something like that for myself by clicking and purchasing through that link. So if you guys want to help out the channel, feel free from that standpoint. Guys, bottom line on this one, it's just another example of Seiko listening to what people have been asking for. People have been wanting this watch. There was one that was too small. There was one that was too big. And guess what? Goldilocks, here you go. Right size, right spec, right movements, and I think at the right price. Sure, they could have added some more things aftermarket, or you can add them aftermarket, but Seiko could have spec'd this up. But then guess what? Then it's like another Alpinist, right? You want a screw down crown, you want sapphire, you want solid links and end links, and a milled clasp. Oh, okay. You go buy an Alpinist. $700, great watch as well. But if you don't want to spend that much and you want to spend $275 or less, this Seiko 5 has you covered, guys. So with that said, let me know what you all think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please do hit like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.